Hey everyone, welcome back to RacquetGuys. Today we are taking a look at the newest frame in the Tecnifibre T-Fight lineup, the T-Fight 300, and comparing how it plays against the 300S. Before we jump too much into exactly the differences, we should clear up some of the confusion about the naming of the T-Fight lineup. For starters, what used to be the T-Fight ISO 300 is now the 300S, with the new T-Fight 300 having slightly different specs than before. For starters, the new T-Fight 300 has a larger 100 square inch head size, along with an enlarged RS section called RS Large, or RSL for short. The RS section in general is a combination of a round and a square section, hence the RS in the name, and gives the best of both worlds with good power and control. The RSL section is slightly thicker than the normal RS section that you're going to find in the 300S, and is slightly stiffer, so there should be a little bit more power off the frame in the 300. Now called the T-Fight 300S, the 300S has the exact same weight and string pattern as the previous generation 300, sitting at 300 grams and a 16x19 string pattern respectively. However, one area that is changed for this new generation of T-Fights is the more headlight balance and significantly lower swing weight. Both the 300 and the 300S have a balance closer to 6 points on strung and a swing weight sitting in the mid 310s. I explained this in a little more detail in my 305S review, but Tecnifibre made these changes after studying the modern professional game and finding that most younger players are prioritizing maneuverability and a faster swing speed with lower frame rates than ever before. This worked really well in the 305S, but let's get these two frames on court and see how they play. As I said in my 305S review, this change in the T-Fight lineup really modernizes the entire lineup. The previous generation T-Fights felt like the specs did not really match up properly and left the frames feeling a little bit disjointed or like they really lacked an identity. They were good frames, but now with the faster swinging, more maneuverable feel, this version of the T-Fight will play better for way more players. Before I talk too much about all the differences, let's get some of the similarities out of the way. Both are way more maneuverable than before, as I mentioned earlier, and this makes both frames way more versatile. I found it was easier to control both direction as well as shot shape with both frames than previous generations, but neither stray too far from the control and feel that so much make up the DNA of the T-Fight series. There was also way more access to spin here on both frames than compared to the previous generation, in large part to the lower swing weight, allowing you to generate a much higher swing speed than before. One area that is always a question when hitting with something with such a low swing weight is how stable it will feel at contact. Fear not, as just like with the 305S, the foam fill along with the RS or the RSL sections really help to dampen the impact without sacrificing feel and really make both frames feel like the sweet spot is much larger than before. Now let's talk about how these two differ. It probably won't shock you when I say that they feel very similar and play almost exactly the same. The only major differences between the two frames are the slightly smaller at 98 square inch head size and the RS section of the 300S, instead of the 100 square inches and RSL section in the 300. I found that the 300S, with the slightly smaller head size and slightly softer RS section, had a little more control than the 300, along with a slightly lower launch angle and slightly less power. Personally, I would choose the 300S over the 300 because I was able to more easily hit shots with a little bit of a lower, more piercing ball flight, but that's just me. This is also definitely not a knock on the 300, as I think with the more forgiving 100 square inch head size, it is more forgiving and does have a larger feeling sweet spot than the 300S, which should appeal to a few more players. This more forgiving feel is why I prefer the 300 at net, as I felt I could get away with some mistakes at net that maybe I wouldn't really get away with the 300S. Serve, honestly, is where I struggled with both frames, much the same as with the 305S. The low swing weight and extremely maneuverable feel is great for generating racket head speed, but I struggled to really adjust my timing with either frame, so serves ended up being a bit of a mixed bag. When I did manage a decent serve, it had plenty of pop with decent spin, but I wouldn't say either really stands out here as being truly exceptional on serve. Again, this is all in my opinion and with my swing, so depending on your swing, you might find serves with both frames to be spectacular. Overall, both the T-Fight 300 and the 300S are amazing frames. Tecnifibre has done an amazing job updating the T-Fight lineup to address the needs of the modern player, and I would expect to see way more players picking these up. Both frames will appeal to a wide gamut of players, from more beginner players looking to get a little more control, all the way up to advanced who are looking for a lighter, more maneuverable frame that is still very stable and forgiving, even at higher ball speeds. Thanks everyone for watching. If you have any questions about either the Tecnifibre T-Fight 300 or the 300S, or have suggestions of things that you want to see us take a look at, let us know down in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button so you have tons more reviews coming out with way more rackets being released this year. As always, both the Tecnifibre T-Fight 300 and the 300S are available in-store and online at our RacquetGuys website. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.